industry. I think for a while we've been going through such a pile of issues that we had never ever before seen. In 2018, when the economy was growing at reasonable pace, the production and sales of cars started a decline because there was much uncertainty on how these transition into combustion vehicles and e-vehicles would happen. So there was this big concern about how to cut down CO2 emissions. Then COVID arrived. That meant to stop, to put to a halt our factories and a drop of the production as we've never seen before in our countries. I think together with tourism, I think the car industry was the one that was more strongly affected. So the year 2021, we all expected a recovery. In fact, there was a certain world recovery that about 6%, but the car industry went through a special crisis linked to the supply chain crisis and to the issue of semiconductors. And then in 2022, we all thought everything would be okay, and then we see the war in Ukraine, an unbearable tragedy that is leading to a financial tragedy with an impact on the supplies and the raw materials increase price, and then this new philosophy of zero COVID in China, and that might be the new black swan. So this is not a very optimistic message, but what I think it's good is that given this complex environment, where we think we're already used that at any moment something worse might happen and then make everything previous be road of roses. What we realize is that our teams have been able to adapt to everything, and I am really, really proud of how our people at G-Stamp have been able to react. And have finally, this has been a quite positive year in a very complex and extremely difficult environment. So we've been facing, thanks to the efforts of our teams, of their courageous work and a strong, hard work, and with a huge reaction capacity. I think we've been doing well in overall terms. But I've also got to say that even though we've done pretty good, this is not the first time we've done so, because we've all went through a crisis in 2008. It was a financial crisis originally. It was compared to the one in 1929, but we went through that one. And at that time, also, there were many issues. It was complicated. The car production and demand dropped about 40%, but we were able to readapt ourselves quickly and support our customers. And this is why we then knew a new period of growth. Our turnover was 2 million euros, and 10 years later, we were having a turnover that was even bigger. So I think we were able to face this crisis and turn it into a chance. I don't know whether we will be able to do the same now, but we will be reinforced after this crisis because we've done our homework, and our performance is even better than before the crisis. And still we keep on developing new technologies and products with new interesting e-programs that will really forecast a very good future. And my third message is linked to this. The environment is very complex, but we at G-Stamp, I don't know whether we're a bit crazy, but we're optimistical. And we see the future with some uncertainty, of course, but we're optimistic nevertheless. And we're optimistic because of some reasons, like we are already convinced that we are going into the transition into e-vehicles, but not so many people are saying mobility is a bad thing. Mobility has always been a good thing. Now mobility has to transform itself, make it be sustainable, multimodal, more connected, and We know there's going to be a recovery of the number of cars in the world. There is more and more population in the world, in China and in India. They need more and more cars. So I think the volume forecast is going to increase in the future, and that is good news for our industry. We were producing 77 million vehicles last year and 95 million vehicles some years before. And of course, the world population is still increasing. And then there is another lever nobody is mentioning. There is already cars. There is 1.3 million vehicles already in the world, and these should transform into CO2 emitting cars. They've got to be more and more sustainable for the future. So this is a good message for the future. This is a good perspective for the future. But also, for another reason, I insist, this growth is going to find us well prepared. We undertook in 2020, in the beginning of the crisis, a new transformation crisis or plan, and we have now the Atenea plan. And that means we're going to use everything that was good in Geostamp in the past, and we're going to reschedule everything and organize the Geostamp of the future. And I think this is an opportunity that if we didn't go through this crisis, maybe we would not have been implemented this so fast and it's in such a determined way. This is really the plan that means what Geostamp is going to be in the future. And then I will get the floor later on, so I don't want to give you any further details, but only to say that we are hosting our 25th anniversary. And the group was born when our father created Copa Renault 25 years ago. But we're a young group, only 25 years old. And I think in all these years, we've been able to prepare or to build a project that I think, in spite of all problems, produces enthusiasm and illusion to all of us that are part of it. And it is a good value for society. And I think this is going to be so for many years to come. So I think we're going to start the formal meeting. We're going to launch the meeting. And now I give the floor to the secretary of this general meeting. So good morning, everybody. Yes, we have to go into the formal part of this general meeting. It is more boring, but it is necessary. So first of all, we've got to say that this has been called as a general meeting of shareholders to be held here in Bilbao at the Palacio Escalduna at 12:30 on May the 10th. And this, if it wasn't possible, it would have been on a second call tomorrow, but it is possible to hold it today. The notice of the call was published on April the 7th in 2022 on the company's website and on the website of National Securities Market Commission and in the newspaper in Spain called La Razón. In accordance with the provisions of the bylaws, the secretary of the meeting will be Francisco Rivera Meran, the chairman, and David Vázquez Pascual, myself. So after these formalities about the call for the meeting, I've got to say the provisional quorum of attendees. So far, even though it will be updated at the end with the people that might arrive at the end of during the meeting, the company's capital social is 287,757,180 euros, divided and represented by 575,514,360 shares of 0.5 euros per value each. And from that capital, we have 285 holding 489,375,089 shares, representing and we have 14 shareholders in person that represent an 0.503% additional. So 300 shareholders, holders of 501,273,054 shares, representing 250,636,527 euros of the share capital. That is an 87% thereof are presented and represented. There is more than 50% of the capital share is present or represented, and therefore the minimum quorum, according to the Article 194 of the Capital Companies Act for the valid constitution of the meeting, the first call is met. Therefore, I propose the chairman to declare the ordinary general shareholders meeting validly constitute for deliberation and the decision of the matters of the agenda. Okay, therefore, I declare validly constituted this ordinary general meeting of shareholders of G Stamp SL Limited Company. So please read the agenda. Okay, so according to this call that you find on page number 5 of the guide that has been handed to those present in this room, the notice of this general meeting includes the following items on this agenda, and I am going to reproduce them. First of all, examination and approval, as the case may be, of the annual accounts of the management report of Gestión Automoción S.A. and annual accounts of management reports of its consolidated group for the fiscal year 2021, and also the management of the board of directors for the same year. Then examination and approval, if applicable, of the consolidated statement of non-financial information for the fiscal year 2021. Then examination and approval, as the case may be, of the proposal for the application of the profit or loss for the same year. Then distribution of a final dividend charge to unrestricted reserves. Then 5, approval, as the case may be, of the partial amendment of the company as bylaws, as I will later comment. Then number 6, approval, as the case may be, of the framework agreement with the related party. Then 7, approval on a consultative basis of the annual report on the remuneration of the company's board members corresponding to the fiscal year 2021. Then 8, re-election of the auditors, Ernst & Young's, and the auditors of the company and its consolidated group for the financial year 2022. And then delegation of powers for the formalization, interpretation, correction, and execution of the resolutions adopted by the General Meeting of Shareholders for the chairman and the secretary, and as I will later mention. And then approval of the minutes of the meeting. Then I will now relate the resolution proposed for approval. So this has been presented by the board of directors, and since the publication of the corresponding announcement, both on the website, they are available to you, and also you have it on the manual, the guide that we gave it to you. There you have the whole text of every proposals. Therefore, I will try not to read the whole text, especially about the bylaws, where we reproduce the whole articles of the bylaws that we would like to amend, but just to sum it up to make this less boring. So, having said this, the following resolutions are submitted to the General Meeting, and this is Resolution 1, examination and approval of the annual final statement and management report. And the proposals is to approve these accounts both individually for the year 2021 as the consolidated annual report of the group. They were both prepared by the Board of Directors as its meeting held on February 28th, 2022, with the prior February report of the Audit Committee. It is also proposed to approve the consolidated financial statements and management report for the year ended December 21st, 2021. Then there is also the consideration and approval of the consolidated statement of non-financial information corresponding to the year 2024. It is proposed to approve the consolidated statement of non-financial information for that year, which is an integral part of the consolidated management report for the said year, but it should be individually approved according to law. Resolution 3. About the proposal for the application of the profit corresponding to the fiscal year 2021. And it is here we're talking about the individual application that was 27,006,483 years. So, according to the board, we decide to devote to interim dividend 20,849,054 years and offset losses 5,157,425 years. It is important to indicate that this dividend was already distributed because the board decided so in January 2022, and we're only ratifying this decision. Also, for Resolution 4, this is distribution of a final dividend discharge to unrestricted reserves. Of course, this will complement the previous dividend that I've already mentioned that was already given on January 2022. This has been proposed according to our dividend policy that we've retrieved after these 2 years of the COVID crisis. So we expect to pay 30% of the consolidated result. So we propose to charge to unrestricted reserves a dividend of 20,747,117 euros and 48 cents. Consequently, it is proposed to pay supplementary dividend to each of every gross per share to each of the company's ordinary shares entitled to receive it. We will be paid in cash on July the 5th of the current year, if approved, and the dividend will be 0.043 euros. Resolution 5, approval, as the case may be, of a partial amendment of the company bylaws. Here, we talked about the new articles 19 and 22, and you see it in your guide. And unless there are any questions, I will not read fully the text of these articles. I will only mention the changes, because these amendments, basically, there are the three following. So to include the components that may comprise the remuneration system of the directors for the performance of executive duties as required by the new Article 529 of the Capital Companies Act. So we are adapting our bylaws to the new legal requirements. Then we're talking about also enable the possibility that, as established in Recommendation 61 of the Code of Good Governance, the remuneration of executive directors might be linked to the delivery of shares or stock options of the company or be indexed to the value of the company's shares. And then thirdly, we have to include the possibility of appointing more than one vice secretary of the board of directors and therefore of its committees. And the reason for this last change on behalf of the company is because it was approved last year a new committee, the Committee of Sustainability. And maybe 3 committees might happen at the same time. So we need 3 people to act as a secretary, a vice secretary. This is why we have to appoint a third person. So according to this, we propose the modification of Article 19 about the regime and operation of the Board of Directors, where we will modify the secretary and the vice secretary, and modify also Article 22 about the remuneration of the boards, where we include the other 2 amendments. That is how to remunerate the board members and to also remunerate them with shares. I'm not going to read the full articles. You have it at your disposals. Resolution number 6, approval, if applicable, of a framework agreement with related party. It is proposed, according to the call, there's a new framework agreement between G-Stamp Servicios and Gombarri Corporación Financiera, that is the head of Gombarri Corporación Financiera, for the supply of raw materials and related services. So we propose the approval of this framework agreement that is being renovated in relation to that was passed in 2018. And this is the case according to the new legal framework since last year. After a certain threshold, we have to approve it in a meeting. Then Resolution 7, approval on a consultative basis, the annual report on the remuneration of the company's director corresponding to the fiscal year 2021. And then, as every year, we propose to approve on a consultative basis the annual director's remuneration report for the 2021 fiscal year, which has been made available to the shareholders when the call was made for this meeting. Solution 8, re-election of Ernst and Young's SL as auditors of the company and its consolidated group for the 2022 fiscal year. It is proposed to appoint this company as auditor of the accounts and for the company and its consolidated group of companies for the fiscal year. It is hereby stated for the record that this resolution is adopted at the proposal of the Board of Directors following the proposal of the Audit Committee. Then 9th resolution, delegation of powers for the formalization, interpretation, correction, and execution of the resolutions adopted by the Ordinary General Meeting of Shareholders. It is proposed to empower all members of the Board of Directors, and in particular the Chairman of the Secretary, with express power of subdelegation, so that any of us jointly and severely may carry out as many acts as may be necessary or convenient for the execution, development, effectiveness, and successful completion of the decisions adopted by the shareholders on this meeting. Then Resolution 10, last item on this agenda, approval of the minutes of the meeting. And then at the end of the meeting, we will approve, if you consider it proper, the minutes of the meeting. So therefore, after we've seen the agenda and the proposals of resolution, and now give the floor again to the chairman.
Muy bien. Bueno, pues vamos a tratar de hacer una presentación amplia para que todos ustedes sean.
I'm going to try to make quite a wide presentation so you all get to know what happened last year. We'll review everything that happened in 2021, but in the light of everything that is happening in the current year, it seems very far away. And we'll try to also give you the guidelines that we thought the year 2022 would be like, but we started in a worse situation than expected given the current circumstances. And then I will give you some details of where we are and also how we modulate our strategy to adapt to what is happening. So if we start by the year 2021, well, this is the current environment. So in the world, there was a growth recovery of about 6% after a big drop in 2020. And the world was a world with expansive monetary and fiscal policies on behalf of every government and bank. This led to an interruption of the supply chain, especially in the field of semiconductors. We already appreciate an increase of the raw material cost, the energy, the logistics, the labor, and also an environment where we thought COVID might not be very important, but then we saw new variants of COVID-19 created creating new, more issues for us. Talking about the car industry, we've already mentioned there was a big drop in 2020. We expected a recovery of 74 million to 87 million. Demand was high, but the issue of semiconductors made last year's production to drop to 77 million, very far away from what we did in the 2 previous years. But there was a retained demand, clearly. And in those charts, you see it very well. Because there in the States, the inventory of light vehicles, that was about 58 to 60 days delivery deadline, and there was an increase also of used cars because there were no new cars, and that is still the case. Then also the production was negative, but it was not equal all over the world. I've got to say that it was not good for us as an environment because we still are strongly implanted in the Western Europe, and if we see the evolution of the market, there was an additional drop percent of from 10 million units to 9 million units. But this is a 30% drop of production in Western Europe. And in China, in spite of everything that happened, there was an increase of the production that was a slightly, 0.7, so slightly bigger, or at least it was the same as in the previous year. To give you more details about the evolution of the market in 2021, I think it is also surprising these data, these figures, where we see since 2019, the world production dropped from 89 million units to 67, but the e-cars production, and here we include the strictly electrical vehicles and the hybrid vehicles, has increased enormously, even though there was a 13% decrease overall in the market. Well, in this macroeconomic environment, we'll see what was our reaction. If we see the sales, 8,900 million euros. So that meant an 8.5 increase of income, but still far away from the more than 9 million turnover in 2019. Geographically, we're able to grow more than any other market that we're talking about. In some environment like Mercosur, where we did 46% when there was an increase of 16% in the market. In Western Europe, we increased by 4%, and also in Asia. So we were growing above the market. There is an 8.1% increase globally in our sales. EBITDA, I think we did a pretty good job. We've created in 2021 almost €1 billion EBITDA. That is an increase in relation to previous years of 31%, even though the production has dropped because there are some 12 or 13 millions of a drop in overall production. But before the crisis, we only had a margin of an 11%. So I think we're doing pretty well because of the high level of transformation that we've implemented in the company in the last 2 years. So if we talk about net profit, we've not able to be back to the previous pre-pandemic situation. But at least it's a 155 net profit. This is why we've recovered our dividend policy. So we've reduced our debt, as you see on the slide, And for the second year, we have reduced our debt because in 2019, we ended with 2,722 million euros. So we have decreased enormously our debt in spite of everything that went through these 2 years. And this is because we have a very, very healthy free cash flow. And in 2021, we generated 248 millions because we reduced the debt, and also we bought some of the minorities and we paid some dividends within the group. So we're talking about a model, our model, that has been able to prove that it is very resilient in the worst possible situation in the years 20 and 21. So we were able to produce more than 500 million euros free cash flow. Then market evolution, it wasn't that bad. The shares did not behave that bad with a 20.8%. The shares have not recovered as we thought they should, and it is still behaving in a not very appropriate way, but we'll see it later. So to conclude this year, the clear message is that the environment was strongly negative. We reacted very, very quickly. We took care of our people. We took care of our customers. We did not let any factory stop. We were very flexible, and we preserved our cash flow, basically. And we try to prove that our business model is quite resilient and strong. But we still keep on looking ahead, trying to face new challenges and possibilities or opportunities. So let's move back about the year 2022. We thought it would be a better year, but it is not so the case. There is a political uncertainty with a war in Ukraine. It is unbearable for a human point of view. There are other tensions in between USA and China. Well, there are disruptions in the supply chain, not only for semiconductors, but also for the wiring, with some issues with our suppliers in Ukraine, rocketing energy and metal prices. And after everything that has been going on, the International Monetary Fund has decided to decide that the GDP is going to increase by 3.6%. Interest rates are also dropping, and fiscal policies are also dropping because governments now need to rebalance their deficit. So, microeconomics, inflation. We've never seen such an inflation in many years in Europe. 6.1% average on the first term, 8% in USA and 6.2% in UK. This is very much related to the restart of the economy, relaunching of the economy that had many issues because of the issues with the supply chain, and now we have the war. So the labor market in the UK is very, very unstable, and also in the United States. So this reflects on the steel price, about some 400 euros. And now we're talking about 1,200, or the price of aluminium, as you see on the slides. They're rocketing. They're really, really increasing. Talking about the automobile industry, I've already mentioned that 2 months ago, all big consulting companies said the market will recover some 84 million units, and now we're talking about 80.6 million units, so a big drop in 2 months' time, and very far away from the 89 million units that we did pre-pandemic. So, of course, we're limited due to the issue of semiconductors. We might have still more at the end of the year. The Ukraine-Russia conflict was not on the agenda either, and we don't know what is going to happen in China when they are trying to lead the zero-COVID philosophy, when we think in the rest of the world that the pandemic is something we have to live with. Within this environment, and we will give you some results today. We wrote a guidance 2 months ago. You see it on the right of the screen. We thought we will keep on growing above more than the market. We thought there will be an increase of our performance in the field of EBITDA and also in percentage, even though there was an impact of the increase on the steel price. But we expected more than 100 million euros increase within this complex environment, and our capex were of 7% of our sales and of the free cash flow of some 200 millions. But given what is going on, I've got to say that we're still following this guidance as the management. And we see that there's been a drop in the volume. That doesn't help. There's more inflation than expected. That doesn't help either. But on the other hand, we're implementing flexibility measures. Teams are working very well, and we are holding very constructive conversations with our customers to be able to share these issues related to inflation. That market, the stock market, overall is reacting, as we see in this chart. Of course, numbers change every day, but there's been a 30% drop of our shares. All the other suppliers also listed are also 30%. This is not a consolation, but, well, this is a real fact. So the darkest blue line is the ones that are trying to follow another trend and trying to impact the increase in cost in something else. But, well, this is the situation of the stock market that is not too good, of course. And I'd like to make some comments, because I think this chart tells a lot. When we were listed, since the year 13 to 17, the world production market was growing at a 2% rate every year. And in 2017, every consulting company would say that by the year 2023, that would be of 1% a year. The line that you see there is very stubborn, and if we were be able to make those 88 million vehicles, and we've got to see if that is possible, that will be an annual drop of 1.4% when we're expecting a 1% drop. So this is our environment still for the current year. But given this complex situation, maybe what is interesting to indicate is that we've done our homework, as I've said previously. So in 2017, we had a level of debt of 2,626 million, and we were producing 94 million vehicles at the time, and we were making a big effort with 920 millions. But we were able to reduce that debt to 2,266. Even there is a drop in the production, in the units, 77 units, and the EBITDA is very different in terms of its leverage. So the environment was not good at all, but we are in a very healthy or healthier situation than previous to the pandemic. So let's look ahead. Let's see how we make good use of the new opportunities. There are options ahead of us, and I think we deserve them because of what we've been doing during these 2 difficult years. So an option means that you have to make the best out of the worst, and we have the electrification now, and by the year 2029, 40% or even more of the world production will be e-vehicles or switchable hybrid vehicles. This means a big transformation of the world production capacity. 40% means a big opportunity for us, because our products can face this transformation. It is a chance for us because we've always been working with body shop and chassis components and parts. We always try to make help our customers make lighter vehicles. So this is better for e-vehicles. We don't do exhaust pipes. We don't do engines. We do panels, parts for the vehicles. And then there are other components like the battery boxes that you see on the right. And we're world leaders for those. And that is a new window of opportunity that opens ahead of us. So this is what we see on this slide. That is an opportunity. These are no longer projects, now are reality. These new battery boxes. We've invested a lot of money. It is a new market, and I know sales will pay soon. And we have projects in the 3 continents, of course, in Europe, but also we're strong in China and the United States. We're not only producing the components of the battery box, but we do the whole battery box, and we are working into the idea of being able to do the delivery of all the component itself, the boxes, the cooling system, and the wiring, everything for this battery box. Talking about the rest of the components we have, if we talk about body in white, we are working the extreme sizes, so big parts, big panels that request fewer components to be put together in the assembly lines of our customers. They want for their assembly lines simpler panels or parts. So the door rings, the battery supports, we're going to have one-piece floor that will be done just one by one pressed, hot press action. So I think we are very much in line with the future demands of our customers in the field of body in white. But also in other components like the chassis we produce. This is something that is not evident, but we no longer have a block of an engine at the front. So the crash behavior in case of an accident is different. So now we are developing new solutions, for example, for the chassis in the front of the chassis, but also we're talking about using these to introduce in that space of the chassis the new electrical vehicles. Sorry, the German dropped the water. Big little mess, but it's okay. So chassis, opportunities to improve our performance for the front crash test. Sorry, so we can have the engine at the front, and when we talk about the mechanism, and we do it as EDSHA. The e-vehicle will mean the possibility to have more components that will slide, like sliding cars, and we are leaders. We will provide more space inside the vehicles because now this is going to be the frunk that is leading to new possibilities and new ideas about e-vehicles. So we're talking about technologies and products, but we're also talking about how we're moving on to adapt to the 4.0 industry. So using big data to make our processes more efficient, to move from preventive maintenance or corrective maintenance to predictive maintenance, to make good use of our factories and not to need any stops or halts of the production. We are now in a connected and efficient production, and we're going to move into a virtual, autonomous, and flexible factory or workshops. And I think flexibility is the key word here, because in the world now we do not know what the car production is going to be like. We don't know what's going to happen, what the transition from combustion cars to e-vehicles is going to be like. So our CapEx is not flexible, so we have to be very flexible. This is a new innovation that we are developing, and this would allow us to be able to have flexible cells that will be able to produce different type of cars, being leaders in lead time and also in flexibility and productivity. Then another key aspect, people. And I wanted to give you some numbers, but the important thing here are not the numbers. You see them on this slide. The important thing is what we do in relation to people, because people are at the base of our excellency. We cannot be excellent if our people are well not chosen, well trained. Otherwise, we cannot be efficient and of good quality. So there you see different numbers. Diversity, not only because we have more and more women, but also we have many more nationalities. So we are really diverse, and this is the fruit of a strategy linked to inclusion. And we have to take care of our youngsters. We have 38% of people who work in our group, they're under 35 years of age. We're providing training, more than 1 million years of training all over the world. That is 27 hours of training average per worker. So we take care of our people. That picture you see there that was taken last year in Pune, where 800 people work, and they developed an extremely complicated project during the pandemic. And the manager, the lady manager, is a woman that is highly talented, and she works in a talented that is really, really complicated, as you might imagine, in India. We're talking about this taking care of people because our business is also about safety, and we've always been paying a big effort to developing our own health and safety system. It is a proprietary health and system, and it's been acknowledged by the German Chamber of Commerce. That means that since 2017, we have had no fatalities, no fatal accidents at all. We follow 70 parameters linked to how to manage the work, the hygiene, the ergonomics, the safety. Health and safety is a core aspect of our company. And talking about sustainability, of course, that is a key aspect. We've always been respectful. We are not especially invasive from a point of view of the environment, but we all know that we have to prevent climate change and change the trends. So what are we doing? We've signed an agreement with Naturgy. It's a utility, so 100% of our factories will work with renewable energies. We have set an agreement, so in different factories in Spain and Portugal, we now have solar panels on the roofs. And with ANOR, we've got the certificate of zero residues or waste. We are the first company in this sector being able to do so. And we've signed also an agreement with the Arcelor Group to buy rights to have green steel. I think we're moving fast in this field, and everything that is relating to the green economy and to cutting down emissions and to the circular emission, I think is going to be really core, fundamental in this company. It is the core of this company. Then the other pillar of the social corporate responsibility, we're doing many things. I cannot show everything in one slide only, but we're running many initiatives in different places in the world. And we also engage and involve people, other people working in the group. We've been working in Ukraine. We have factories in Russia. Now we have stopped the production there, but the people that work there, we keep on paying them because they were always to us part of GSTAM. So they are not working because we're not working in Russia not right now as a matter of pressure, but as a measure of pressure. But we are paying them their salary, okay? And we are also taking care of the Ukrainian people in our plants. We have to take care of our people, and we're doing so. And from a governance point of view, we have the best standards of governance. As they change, we adapt to the new ones. I know that ESG is the core of our company. We've created a committee on sustainability that is going to be more and more important for the board and for the company. We also have a very strong and diverse committee. We have many women in this board. We have many independent also board members, even though this is not strictly necessary. And we also have people with a high level of knowledge and skills. And we're moving on also in adapting to the new governance policies, and especially in all these new standards or rules about human rights. And let's talk about the future. Well, I mentioned already at the beginning the Atenea plan. Well, this means that we're all fully committed, not only to say we've been doing very well during these last 2 years, but now we have to work towards the future. The company started from zero. We've always been very close to the clients and to technology, and we've been able to grow. But we also now have to change every system to adapt to this group made of more than 40,000 people, 130 plants in the world, and we're working in 23 countries. So we needed this plan, and this is a new source of motivation and of change for the group, and I think this was really necessary. And I think with this, I will give the floor back to the Secretary, but this was to show you what we've been able to do in 2021. I wanted to also show you what we've been doing already and adapting to the changes happening in 2022. And I think we will end up the year quite well and creating value to us and to the whole of the society. Thank you very much.
Y a continuación, cedo la palabra al secretario al objeto de que...
I give the floor to the Secretary so that they inform the shareholders according to the law. So, as you've said, according to the Capital Companies Act and the Good Governance Recommendation, we proceed to inform the meeting of the following matters. So the company annual corporate governance report for the financial year 2021 that is submitted on a consultative basis to be voted by the meeting. Then also there was the company's annual corporate governance report for the year 2022, which details how the company complies with the recommendations of the Code of Good Governance for listed companies that apply to it. In this sense, I've got to say that the company does not comply only 1 out of the 64 recommendations of this code. That is recommendation number 61, which recommends that the variable remuneration system for the executive directors should include the delivery of shares of financial instruments referenced to their value. In accordance with the proposal of the 5th resolution to this meeting, that is about the amendment of the bylaws, precisely to have this possibility in the future, even though the company does not consider it necessary for the time being. It should not be in the remuneration policy yet. Then the company's audit committee has issued the annual report on the independence of the company's auditors for the year 2021. So the full text, together with the call of this meeting, is available to the shareholders. I'm not going to get into every detail of these proposals. Then, likewise, it is a pleasure to inform the meeting about the most relevant changes regarding the corporate governance of the company since the last general meeting held on May the 6th on 2021. That was a year and 4 days ago. So basically, the changes are creation by the Board of Directors of Sustainability Committees to support the board in environmental, social, and corporate governance matters. It's been already stated by the President during his presentation. Then the approval by the Board of Directors of an update of the criminal risk prevention model and its corresponding manual. Then the approval by the Board of Directors of an update of the succession plan for the chairman of the board of directors. Then the elevation by the board of directors of the committees of the audit committee's proposal on the amendment of the company's bylaws submitted for approval of the general shareholders meeting under item 5. So for the sake of transparency, we have included the non-financial information published by the company for the first time. Previously, it was part of a sustainability report, and now for the first time, this is an annual report because we want to be more transparent. Finally, now, not as secretary, but as secretary of the audit committee, and following the indications of the chairman of this committee, I hereby inform the general meeting that the audit report prepared by the company's auditor, which has also been made available to the shareholders, is unqualified, and that the opinion issued by the auditor indicates that individual and consolidated financial statements give a true and fair view of the net worth and financial position of the company as the group as of December 21st, 2021, as well as the results and cash flows, in accordance with the applicable regulations. We also inform the shareholders of the audit committee that the audit committee has supervised the process of preparation and presentation of the mandatory financial information, and the annual accounts presented today for the approval of the general meeting have been prepared by the board of the directors following a favorable report issued by this committee. So before offering the floor to the shareholders who so request, I would like to ask the Secretary to announce the definitive quorum of shareholders and the capital attending this general meeting. So according to the final count, so represented 288 shareholders, with that is 86.59 of the capital, and in person 22 shareholders, and this represents an 0.50% of the capital's social capital. I'm sorry, I skipped the amount. So 310 are represented. So these 310 represent 250,727,020, and this accounts for 87.125%. So the quorum has been met. It was possible to hold it on the first call, as we've done. So at this moment, the intervention period is opened. If any of the shareholders wish to make use of the right to information recognized in this agenda, if so, please raise your hand. So I skipped the number of the shareholders represented, but you will find this information published on the website later on. So if there are no questions, please, Secretary, could you approve? Let's do the approval of these resolutions. So we're going to vote every of the resolutions of this call. So according to the legal requirements of the Capital Companies Act, all items on the agenda of this meeting must be approved by simple majority, that is obtaining more votes in favor than against of the capital present or represented at the meeting, with the exception of items 5.1 and 5.2 of the agenda about the amendment of the bylaws that should be approved by absolute majority. That is with more than 50% of the capital present or represented. Since all presented have indicated their votes handed at the end, at the beginning of this meeting, I will let you know about this recount of votes. But if some of the voters decide to change their mind, then please state so when I am reading such a resolution. So, Resolution 1, examination and approval of the annual financial statement and management report of the consolidated group for 21st, and also the management of the boards of directors during fiscal year 2021. So we have 99.88% for, against 0.0%, abstention 0.02. So approved. Then second, consideration approval of the consolidated statement of non-financial information, 100% for, so unanimously approved. Point number 3, about the examination and approval of the proposal for the application of the result corresponding to the fiscal year, 100% for, so approved by unanimity. Number 4, about the distribution of a supplementary dividend charge to unrestricted reserve, also 100% for. So number 5, amendment of the bylaws. So we have the modification of Article 19, 5.1, and the other article in 5.2. So both got the same votes, 99.999% of the votes for, 0 votes against, and an abstention on 0.0004%. Then about the framework agreement, it is the following: 99.99% for, 0 against, abstention 0.0004. About number 7, about the annual retribution report, 97% for, 2.62 points against, and 0.03% abstentions. That is approved. 8, re-election of Ernst & Young and all as auditors of the company for fiscal year 21, 98.59% for, 1.4 against, 0 abstentions. So it is also approved. 9, delegation of powers. All votes were for, so approved by unanimity. And about the minutes, that is item 10 of the agenda. It has been prepared during this meeting, so I'm not going to read it, but unless you wish otherwise, I would consider it read and submit it for approval. So, do we approve the meeting? Votes are 100% for, so unanimity. Approved. So, we can finish the voting and give back the floor to the chairman to close the meeting. So, as the Secretary said, we've tackled and voted every resolution. So I'm eager to see you again next year. And now call this a meeting and close the meeting. Thank you very much.